Today we're going to make a cherry pecan sourdough loaf. It's packed with dried cherries and toasted pecans, and it uses whole wheat, so there's a bit of whole grain in there, which is wonderful. It's chewy and perfect for breakfast or for dinner. It's amazing. Let's get into it. So the first step in this bread is to go ahead and combine most of your ingredients, and then we're going to let them sit for 15 minutes, called an auto-lyse, which is just going to hydrate the flour and also start the gluten development without actually creating any friction or having to do anything, which is awesome. This recipe does have a bit of dry active yeast in it. You can omit that, but the whole thing will just take longer. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to add our yeast to our bowl here with our water and whisk that in, just so there's no big clumps. We're going to add our AP flour, and then this is whole wheat flour. And then our last addition is a liquid levain. Last night I made my liquid levain from my stiff levain, and I'll link above if you want to go ahead and see how to do that. And I'm just going to pour all of this in my dough here. So the only ingredient that we're holding back here is the salt. And the only reason that we're doing that is because salt is hygroscopic, and so it's going to take away some of that moisture from the yeast and the flour in the dough. So we don't want to do that yet. We just want to hydrate our flour and get our gluten going, and then we'll be golden. So I am going to mix this on low. Okay, so all our ingredients are incorporated here. And I'm going to put the salt on top. I just don't want to mix it in quite yet. So we're just going to let this sit for 15 minutes. Don't forget about it, because don't forget our yeast is inside and it will start to proof. And we don't want that just quite yet. And we're back. So it is now time to mix our dough. So we're going to switch to the dough hook now. Go ahead and put that in there. And then we're going to turn that on low just to incorporate our salt that we put on top. Now once your salt is incorporated, go ahead and turn it up to medium-high to develop the rest of the gluten, right? So every now and again, just reach in there, grab some dough. You want enough to be able to pull it, but not so much that it's cumbersome. All right, so again, we're gonna pull a little window here to test and see if our gluten is properly developed. The whole wheat that we put in here is going to make it tear more easily and make it harder to pull that window, and that's no big deal, but you just have to be mindful of it. It is harder to pull a window also because this is it's a wetter dough. So this is not quite done. We're going to put it back in there, and then we'll try the window pane test again. All right, so our dough is developed, and we are ready to add our mix-ins. So I've got pecans here. And also dried cherries that I soaked for 30 minutes in hot water, and then I drained them really well. So go ahead and put those in there. And then we're going to incorporate this on low. You really just want to mix this until most of the nuts and the dried fruit are inside your dough and not like on the outside. Okay, so most of our nuts are inside. We are now ready to bulk proof our dough. So just a little bit of canola oil in our bowl, and get your dough and plop it into your bowl. Boop. So we're going to cover this with plastic wrap, and then we're going to do a fold in about an hour. All right, so we're about halfway through our bulk proof here, and we are just going to give her a fold. I like to use a little oil on my hands, but you can use flour if you'd like. So we're going to loosen her up here, and we are going to flop her down. Turn, loosen, flop. Turn, loosen, whoop, flop. Alrighty, so that's our only fold. We're about halfway through our bulk proof time. We're gonna let her kind of double, and then we'll shape it. It is time to pre-shape our dough. So go ahead and toss a little flour on the top, remove it, and then go ahead and dust your bench, just a little flour there. Use a bowl scraper, scrape out your dough, Get just a light dusting on the back here. All right, perfect. I'm gonna weigh my dough to divide it. This makes 2 loaves. It can be kind of hard to tell to eyeball it when you have so many things inside of it. So I like to go ahead and just weigh it. So now we're gonna shape. We're gonna pre-shape into a round. So just take your dough, and then we're gonna fold all the corners in, like so. And then flip it over. And then we're gonna shape this into a bowl. So I'm pulling the dough underneath itself to tighten it. Now we're gonna let these bench rest for 15 minutes. We need to prepare our baskets. So I like to take just a little bit of rice flour and then just sift it. So it's been 15 minutes and we're ready to shape our little loaves here. I'm gonna shape one into a round and one into a log shape. So all 4 corners in to the center, boop, boop, flip it over, and then pull it under into itself and kind of tighten the bowl. So we'll take our bowl and then we'll flip it upside down into our basket. And then it will final proof like this. Log shape, similar. Fold in a third, stretch, fold in a third, stretch, fold in, and then do a thumb fold. So I'm going to cover these with plastic wrap and let them proof until they're about double in size, and then we're going to go ahead and bake those today. All right, reaching the home stretch here. Our bread is doing its final proof. It's not quite there yet, it's almost there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece of parchment to place over top so that when I flip it over, I have something to land it on and also to kind of lower it into my preheated Dutch oven. I like to just use the basket as a guide here. You have nice little handles to like lower it down into the Dutch oven with. Okay, so we are ready to bake our bread. You can see that it's risen. It's also really nice and fluffy and airy. You can feel the nice aeration in there when you press on it gently, which is awesome. So we are ready to bake these. And the next several steps need to move fast, right? Turn out your, and then flip it over like that so it doesn't fall. And then we are going to score our loaves and get them in the ovens. So give it a nice score. So I have preheated these Dutch ovens with my oven. And then added the top the last 20 minutes. So that way they are nice and piping hot. So I can just drop that in there gently, cover her up. This will trap the steam, and then I will get this in the oven right now. So my oven is at 450 degrees, and I am going to set a timer for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to remove the lids. So the purpose of the lids for the Dutch ovens, it traps the steam that is being released by the bread as it rises. So that's allowing the crust to stay soft and delaying that crust formation so that you get that big, beautifully risen loaf with nice big air holes. It's time to cut. All right, let's dig in. You see how you can see that there's pecans and cherries in every single bite, and it's whole wheat and chewy, and oh, it's delightful. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe down below. That way you don't miss anything.